So the thing about navigating a hiking trip is it's perceived to be one of the more difficult aspects, and I think it really limits a lot of people in terms of how much and how often they go hiking. So in this video I want to break down how I find, plan and navigate a hiking trip, whether it's a short overnighter like it is today or whether it's a much longer through hike. I'm going to show you the software that I use to find trails, to plot my route and to navigate them while I'm on the trip, and we're going to go through on this trip showing you how I use that software. We've got a bunch of tips and mistakes to avoid along the way. Let's get into it. So before you actually get on the trail and start navigating, there's a whole bunch of work you got to do before you actually get to this point. So let's dial back a bit. So the real work in navigation, I think, is done in the planning, and that's done at home on a computer. But the great thing about what I'm going to show you is you can actually do this on your phone as well. Now it starts with having some idea of where you want to go, which hopefully you have already. Maybe it's just some cool photo you saw on Instagram, but whatever you do, we just need that name and then we can start doing a little bit of searching. And usually I'll begin this with Google Maps. So we'll start on the satellite search in Google. I'll type in Puig Mal because that's the mountain I'm hoping to climb on this trip. And specifically what I'm looking for is the best access. Usually that'll be a car park. So I'll search around that area, just see where is the easiest way to get into this location and get a bit of a general idea. Another little tip, if you right click on the place and click the GPS coordinates there, that'll save that to your clipboard. That could be handy later, we might use that. So from here, I'll usually open up a wikiloc.com browser. I'll type the name of the peak or the car park, and I'll just start searching around that area to see what other people have done. And sure enough, this is a really popular mountain, so I can see that there's loads of routes there already. The great thing about Wikiloc, especially here in Spain, a lot of people use it. You'll find trail notes, you'll find photos, handy information like where the water sources are, where the potential campsites are, and lots of other information. If Wikiloc isn't something that's used typically in the area where you're from, you could check out AllTrails or Gaia GPS. There is a load of these different apps that you can use to discover new trails. But before you go and follow someone else's trail blindly, just keep in mind you'll be following exactly what they do. So if they happen to make mistakes, you'll be following them as well. So whenever you're looking at a route like this, just scan over it, see where they backtrack, and that's probably the place that you'll want to really pay attention to make sure you don't get off trail. So from here you can create your own account in wikiloc.com, save and favorite or download the GPX file before uploading it to a watch or a GPS unit. But by far the most accessible, the easiest and the lightest way to do this is to use just an app on your phone, and we're going to get into that soon. But if you've never heard of a GPX file, it's simply just short for GPS exchange. And this is a file type that pretty much all GPS watches, all GPS units and apps allow you to exchange GPS information. And you can often find GPX files on blogs as well. So if you found a blog that you like where someone looks like they know what they're doing, then you can download that GPX file, you can upload it into a software like this, and it's a great way for you to find these files as well. That's how I found my GPX file for the HRP this year, just from a blog. I downloaded the file and I uploaded it into the software that I use. So following someone else's trail is a great way to start, but there's a few more steps that you need to take in order to make sure that you don't get lost, and one of those is downloading the map so you actually have it offline. More than likely you're not going to have internet access on this hike, so we'll get into that soon. But what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to create my own route from scratch, and I don't actually have to go out and explore in the wilderness. I can literally draw my own map using another piece of software that I like called Outdoor Active. So whilst Wikiloc is great for finding other people's routes, it's not actually very good for plotting and creating routes, nor is it my preferred app to navigate with. So for both those tasks, I actually switch to Outdoor Active. And again, you can create a free account with them, which gives you all the basic functionality that I'm going to show you now. So first we'll just go to the route planner under the routes tab, and you can either search for the point that you wanted to start your hike, or you can even paste the GPS coordinates that we found on Google Maps before. And that's another reason why I prefer Outdoor Active to Wikiloc. But in my case, what we're going to do is I'm just going to search for La Molina, which is the train station that is closest to the mountain that I want to climb. So That's just come straight up there. And that's defaulted the starting point to the middle of the ski field. So what I'm going to do is just move that over straight to the train station, and that's going to be my starting point for this hike. So from here, you've got a couple of options. What you could do is search directly here for the peak that you wanted to climb, or you could find it on the map. And Outdoor Active will actually just plot the trail for you without you having to do anything. But what I'm going to do is create my own route. Because this route here, it looks like it's putting me on the GR11, and that's something I've done already. And to be honest, it was one of the more boring parts of the GR11. So I'm going to create my own route, do something completely different. So we'll just hit the back button. And now, this is the cool part of this app, we can actually plot our own route. If you make a mistake at any time, just hit the back button. It's super easy. So I'm going to plot my way through this trail here, which will usually be the most well-worn trail. So this one looks good for me there. There's a very direct line that could be interesting. And I'll just cherry pick my path up from the train station up to the borderline, where I'm going to follow this nice long ridge here. Now, for the most part, this app is really great at just predicting your path. But as you can see, every so often, it will send you off on a wild goose chase, usually because of a small section that doesn't have these dotted lines. Now, on steep terrain, that might be a bit of a red flag. Could be something dangerous or impossible, like a cliff face. But in this case, because of the distance between these gradient lines, I can see that this is very flat, open terrain, so there shouldn't be an issue here at all. You know, sometimes in real life, there'll be a very clear, easily walkable area, but there just isn't a map to signify that that's an actual path. So that might not be recognized by Outdoor Active. And in that case, what we can do is just click this little magnet button here. That's the trail network button. And that will allow free routing, which means it'll just basically create a beeline between the previous point and the next one. So if you're having trouble, if the route is going all over the place, just hit that little magnet. So that's a way that you can kind of force the app into doing exactly what you want it to do. Once you're back on a major trail though, you can probably toggle that trail network back on and you'll have a lot less work to do. And so far, I think this is my favorite function of Outdoor Active. So I'll just continue to draw my line up here. And now that the trail network is on, I could probably just click, you know, like halfway up the trail to see what it does. It's linked it up really nicely there. So what I might do is just click my end goal, which is the summit of Puig Mal. So another thing I like down the bottom here, this line will tell me exactly how much hiking I'm going to do for the day. So 18.5 kilometers, about 6.5 hours worth of hiking, 1,500 and something meters of elevation gain. So it's a pretty solid day. And given that I'm not starting this trail until midday on Friday, I think that's plenty. And what I'm going to do is start searching around here for potential campsites. And you know, this is probably not ideal. It's almost 3,000 meters. It's going to be very exposed to the wind. But looking around here, that doesn't really seem to be a great campsite. But knowing these kind of areas and these mountains, there's almost certainly going to be bivouacs and areas to camp up high. And bivouacs are basically just rock walls that will provide a little bit of wind protection. You can actually even see them on Google Maps. If you zoom in close enough, you'll see them like little moon craters on top of the mountains. So worst case scenario, I can bivouac somewhere up high. So sleeping up high is not the most ideal situation, but in this case, it looks like I've got a fairly long descent back down to this green area where the tree line is. That would provide a lot more protection from the wind and from wild weather. But looking at the weather forecast, it seems pretty mild actually for Friday night. So I think in this case, we should be fine. So if this happened to be a through hike, you could just click continue and save this day and repeat the process for the entire through hike. But in my case, I'm just going to keep plotting the rest of this route. Now, from the summit, I can either head back to the starting point. So from here down on the left-hand side, I can just click same way back. What we could also do is do close loop, and Outdoor Active will create like a circuit, which could be kind of cool. But in my case, what I want to do, and this is the great thing about train travel, is I'm going to link this trail up back to another train station down here in Planoles. So let's see if I just single click on Planoles, and there it is. It's connected a nice little trail. Looks like it follows the GR11, which I have done before. but I'll be going in the opposite direction to what I've done, so that should work out just fine. So all told, we've got 33 something kilometers, about 12 hours of hiking, 1800 meters of ascent. And that should be a nice hike for me for Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. And I should be able to get back in time to catch the train from Paranolas about lunchtime. And by the looks of it, I've got a trail with access to water. I'll wild camp somewhere along the way. So I'll hit continue. I'll name it something, categorize it as hiking, and save the file to my account and add any notes that I want to add in there. So we are almost ready to hike, but before we do, there's an important step, and that's to download this file to your Outeractive account or to your phone, because I'm pretty sure you're not going to have internet access, and I'm certainly not going to have cell service for this entire hike, and that can really get you in trouble. And I think that's probably the number one mistake people make when they start using apps like this. They forget that they actually have to download either the maps and or the trail to your phone. With Outeractive, you just hit download, one button, and you've got it. But we're going to go through 3 or 4 other really common mistakes that people make when they're using their phone for a GPS, but we'll do that out on the hike, so hang in there. But for now, I'm going to download this trail to my Outeractive account. That is a paid feature that you can only get with one of the subscriptions. The Pro subscription gets you access to various maps like Topo and the Alpine Club maps, as well as an ad-free experience for $2.50 a month, which I think is an absolute bargain. That's very reasonable. Using this software has made my life so much easier, so I'm super happy to pay for it. But what I opted for was the Pro Plus subscription, which is twice as expensive at $5 a month, but it does allow me to do this. So this is called 3D Preview. It's a pretty fancy feature that not everyone will need, but if you're a content creator or if you just love sharing your adventures with your friends, then I think it's worth considering. I added it to my last couple of videos and you guys went absolutely nuts for it, so I think it's worth it. But what I'm showing you here is a very affordable, very accessible, and very lightweight way of navigating with only your phone, not having to buy anything else other than this software. And whilst it's certainly best practice to have a map and a compass and to know how to use it, and perhaps to have a GPS as well as a backup plan, and we could debate the merits all day of having a map and compass or buying a GPS unit, but for now, I think that's enough talk. Let's go for a hike. So I hopped off the train, found the trailhead, and it turns out it's this fire trail. So we'll follow this trail. It looks like it's going to zigzag back up and gain the ridge higher up the mountain. And then from then on, we're following the ridge the rest of the way. So I actually rarely ever use the actual tracking function on this app. Now, of course, you can turn it on and it's going to tell you at any moment that you leave the trail. The bad thing about that, though, is that it does require a lot of battery. And so if you're going to leave it tracking all day, it's going to kill the batteries of your phone. And then you're going to be out of a navigation device. So A, it's important that you bring an external battery pack. And B, keep an eye on your battery levels, because you don't want to run out of battery and have no way of contacting anyone, no way of finding your way home. So I was looking on the map and discovered that there was a really sharp left turn that went straight up the hill. And I just found out what it is. Remember how I was saying that these trails would go anywhere? This is what the routes decided to put me on. It's like a tower trail for these power lines, and it there's a reason why it just goes directly up the hill. So it looks like I've done the majority of it. That was pretty quick and painless, and in any case got a lot of elevation in that short amount of time. And just looking at the map, that this seems to be marked as just a regular trail, which it is to some extent. Like if you have a look at it, people have definitely been using this trail, so that's fair enough. Onwards. So we came up the top of that fire trail, and now the route's telling me to get onto a road which is a little bit skinny, but I think the reason why it's chosen it is because this is private property, this trail. So there is a trail through there, but out of respect for the people that own the property, I'm just going to take this short section of road. So I was walking on the road there for about 3 minutes, and after a little bit of searching came across this little marker and a trail behind me. So from here on, this is some kind of major route. I mean, if it's marked with a yellow singular marking in Spain, it's usually a pretty significant trail. So we're going to follow this one up and it'll eventually get to the top of the ridge. And somewhere along the way, I've got to find some water. So I'll be looking for little creeks. There's been a lot of rain recently, so definitely should be able to find something. One thing that I think is important to note about using your phone to navigate as a GPS is not to phone gaze. You don't want to be like consistently looking at the phone all the time. I mean, by all means glance at it every now and then, but keep your eyes open for the trail. You'll see here that, you know, if I was just kind of looking at my phone, I might have continued along this pretty clear kind of trail behind me. There's like a tree clearing, but there's a couple of markings on this post, and importantly it's telling me to go up in that direction. So don't continuously watch your phone, just use it as a device and use your brain to do the navigating. So I found some water. It might not look like the nicest source, but it is coming directly out of the ground over there, so it's not really going to get much better than that. I checked up a little higher and this stream originates here. This is the headwater. So the only thing is, do I want to fill up all my water here? So I'm going to have a quick look at the map and see if there's any other streams we're likely to cross from here on. So we zoom in. Pla de la Bassa. It looks like there is some kind of little pond and a torrent, according to the map, not too far up from here. And then there's several little creeks and little ponds along the ridge. I don't know how good the quality will be, so I think just to be sure, I think I'm going to fill up a couple of litres here. One thing you'll notice is that a lot of the apps are really accurate. I've just come up here just above the tree line where there's no more tree cover for a little while, and that's been represented on the map by changing from green to grey. And there's also several different maps you can choose from depending on what kind of detail you want to see. I like just the regular Outdoor Active map actually, but in certain situations I'll be using the Alpine Club maps, which have got a little bit more detail. Electric. Gotta watch out for those electric fences. Jesus. So I'm glad I got water before, because this is what the pond on the map is. Just a cattle drinking area. So you can see on the tree here, found a little sign indicating that there's a water source, like a fuente, a fountain, just off the trail here. And I had a look on the map and it doesn't actually indicate that clearly there's a water source there. You can see like a blue little line, like a pond around the corner. But that's why it's so good to have a guidebook to complement having your GPS mapping app on your phone. Makes all the difference. Now in my case today, I'm walking a trail that probably doesn't have a guidebook for it, and that's going to be the case a lot of the time. So just trying to hunt down some trail notes from someone. Wikiloc is really good for trail notes. Especially in Spain, people are really dedicated about putting very detailed notes on Wikiloc, and might be different for your part of the world, but check it out. So at this point the tracking becomes pretty useful because I'm looking for a place to camp, and I want to know the distance between where I am right now, my eventual goal of climbing Puigmal, and to get an idea of the distance, you know, to understand whether this is possible, just pull down the top tab, scroll my finger from left to right from where I am now. So I'm about 11 to 12 k's into the trip. The peak of Puigmal is 20, so I know I've got a 8-kilometre trip to get to the top of Puigmal. So that helps me kind of understand roughly what I'm going to be able to do in the next few hours in terms of camping and being able to make a summit. And mainly what I'm looking for as a campsite is something in the leeward side of the mountain, so the north in this case, because the wind's kind of coming from the south. I want to find somewhere that's going to offer a little bit of shelter. Obviously I want a relatively flat spot as well. But the main thing is those altitude lines, they're 20 meters apart, so every 5 lines you ascend 100 meters. So the further they are apart, the flatter the terrain's going to be. When they're really close together, that means you're on really steep terrain. Okay, so I'm on Puig de Doria, and that is the objective for the trip. Puigmal in the background. This is looking like a really nice little base camp down here, so I might go check that out. But this is the wind direction, so it is going to be a little bit exposed. So what I might do is sort of round this peak, see what's on the other side. Maybe it's a little bit more sheltered. I know that's a ski field. I don't know. We'll go and check it out. But if not, then I'll pass over this col and come back down here. And tomorrow morning, have a coffee, get the peak done, and go back and get the train. And that should be another 20-something K day. And I think today was probably done about 17 or 18 so far. Where are we? Tossa del Pas del Lladres. Okay, so it seems like I'm at an old ski field that's out of service. I think I'm going to camp here because it's quite sheltered from both sides with this little rock wall. And then first thing in the morning, we can head up this nice little easy trail, get the summit. So this is my new stove. It's the BRS 3000T. It weighs about 27 grams. I haven't even used it yet, so this is going to be interesting. Hopefully it works, otherwise I'm cold soaking tonight. Whoa, she's on. Okay, well, it definitely lets the gas out. Whew. Noisy, also very fast. That was about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. Probably could have slept on the summit. I don't usually eat meat, but it's in a bit of a rush. Let's have a look in here. Wow, hot damn. It's about 7 AM. Had a little bit of breakfast. I didn't bother making a coffee because it's so windy. But the sun is just coming up over the summit. But it's 3 kilometers and 500 meters ascent, so go and get that done and
start making our way home. I should have had a closer look at the map last night because I was in a very windy location, and this place here is absolutely perfect. It's protected on all sides and it's super flat. It's just idyllic. I'm just deciding what to do now. I'm going to follow my original route. It's a little after 8 o'clock in the morning and I don't have to be back at the train until 2:30 in the afternoon, so I can take a leisurely stroll down the other side of the mountain and explore some more stuff. Hopefully we can get out of the wind, maybe even have a coffee. Whew. That's all the water I have left. So I think it's time to find a stream, make a coffee. This is a really perfect water source because it's coming directly out of the ground. Nothing can interfere with it. I haven't seen anything higher, so I'm pretty sure I could drink directly from this, but of course I'm not going to. I'm going to filter it. Probably one of the most common mistakes I think people make when they're trying to navigate their own trails is taking a shortcut. You know, even if you can see directly where you want to go, like in this situation, let's say I wanted to head to this road down here, even though you can see it and it doesn't look like there's any obstructions, there's any number of things that could happen between here and there, and it could really slow you down. So I would always advise against it, but also keep in mind that when you're walking off trail, you're going to be doing damage to the environment. You know, this is something you see in Nepal a lot, where people just cut their own trails to avoid the switchbacks to go directly up. And at the end of the day, if everything's a trail, then nothing's a trail, right? So try not to take shortcuts, especially when it's very kind of delicate alpine moss and grassland like this. It is very sensitive to people walking on it, so trying to stick to the trail for that reason, but also because you could get lost. It could end up taking you way more time. It's better to just stick to the trail. So I've rejoined the GR11, back down below the tree line now, and some of you might recognise this place below me from my Crossing the Pyrenees series, the video that I made. Up there is where I slept last night, and I'm going to keep following the GR11 back into this pine forest and eventually down another 800 meters or something like that. So I think there's another situation in which people can often get into trouble using a mobile phone for a GPS navigation device, and that is if they change their mind, if they change their route suddenly. You may find that you don't have the maps downloaded for the new route that you want to do. So I think it's really important to, in that planning stage, know exactly what you want to do and try and stick to that plan, because if you haven't downloaded the map for any changes you make, then you might find that you don't have a navigation device. Having said that, once you're out, you know, this is relatively easy. Obviously just check every time you have a break, just make sure you're on the right track. I prefer doing that to having you know, the audio guide on all the time. I find that really annoying. It's this kind of digital voice that really interrupts my peace when I'm out in the mountains. So I just tend to turn that off and just keep an eye on the trail as I go. Every now and then you might get off trail, but it's not a big deal if you're checking regularly. So, just about coming to the end of our little adventure here. If you are as impressed with this software as I am, then you can try it for free. Just like a lot of these apps, you can get a basic free version. If you want to trial out the Pro or the Pro Plus subscription, that's the one that gets you those 3D flyovers. You can get €10 off by clicking the link in the description. So if you want to impress your friends and if you want to create those flyovers for a bit of fun and share them with people, you've got to get the Pro Plus subscription. But Pro offers a bunch of other features that are really handy as well, and so much more that I didn't actually go into in this video. So download it, try it out, and stay safe in the outdoors. Don't get lost. I'll see you on the summit.